Hi, everyone. This evening is a really unusual chat. I'm excited to be chatting to three young ladies who are going to be sharing their views about internet safety and what they think about how teenagers should be engaging and interacting around being safe online. So I'm going to bring them on, and I would love for you to meet them. So good evening, ladies. I am so excited for you to be sharing this evening. Thank you for your time and for being willing to participate. So Muriel, perhaps you want to start and tell us a bit about yourself and why did you decide to hop into the chat?
Okay, so one of the main reasons why I chose to do this was because I think as society evolves, people are getting more and more braver to be more cruel or harsh to others online. So I think it's important that I as Matric come on here and give my advice on why that is wrong and why it's not acceptable behavior.
Oh, wow. I do agree with you. That is so important that we are kind to each other online. I think that's beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to your thoughts around that. Imra, perhaps you'd like to tell us about why you decided to join and tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm grade 11. I'm Imra, and I've been at Parklands College for quite a while now, and so I've been exposed to a lot of different things, especially online, because our school is very technology focused. And I think like the problems arising with technology these days, it's like become really, really prevalent, and it's just become a lot at the moment. Like it's becoming worse and worse, the problems that we see. Like it used to just be little cyberbullying or little text, but now it's like actually escalating to like racism, sexism, all those bad things. So it's really important to address that and to like spread awareness about it, and that's mostly why I joined today. So yeah, I'm excited.
No, thank you. That's also a great reason. I think we do have to say how, going back to even what Muriel said, how can we be kind to each other? Why do we have to be mean and nasty online? So as the last but not the least person, Daniela, why did you agree to hop onto this chat?
I think there's a normalization for younger students to join the internet and to use social platforms. And I think there has to be an awareness made on how to use these platforms properly, how to use them respectfully towards others and also respectfully towards yourself. I think it's a massive problem that we have today that people don't know how to conduct themselves on these platforms, and this has consequences.
That is so, so true, yes. And realizing those consequences for me is very important. And I don't know if we have these discussions enough. And you've all mentioned that it's lower and lower down. So I'd like to begin with the first question. And perhaps I've said it being, why do you think teenagers need to be aware of internet safety? But if you want to even speak about younger children, please do. Who'd like to share their thoughts first?
I can.
Okay, Imran?
Okay, so I was like, when I was thinking of this question, then I was just saying the internet's very powerful, right? But for positive purposes and negative purposes. So teenagers need to be aware of these dangers online, like cyberbullying, online predators, scams, and inappropriate content. They need to understand the importance of protecting their personal information and privacy online. And they need to understand the long-term consequences of their digital actions, like the footprints, you know. And so if they're informed and they're aware of it, they can take the appropriate measures and they can use the internet safely and responsibly. So it doesn't like cause those problems later on in life. So yeah.
That's very true. Danielle, you had your hand up next. Would you like to share?
Yeah. I think there are, like Imra said, there are contact risks in terms of predators being on the internet. I don't think anyone is who they say they are these days. So identifying who these predators are and not falling for their scams and fraudulent acts. I think also being aware of, especially parents being aware of what their children are consuming. So what are the content that they are consuming? Is it your explicit sexual content? Is it fake news? Because fake news is shaping our opinion, it is shaping our viewpoint. So being able to identify what are valid sources, have they been researched, or is it prejudice? Is it I think that is enough.
Those are all valid. I mean, has it been researched? Are we looking at things analytically and actually deciding, is it real, is it true? Is a really good point. Muriel, what would you like to share?
Well, my point is quite similar to what both of them have said, but I think internet safety is important because most young people do not know that their personal information is being stored online when they shop online, when they log into web applications and stuff like that. And cyber criminals have the ability to use their details for malicious activities like hacking accounts and stuff like that. So I think it's important that parents, as Danielle said, parents should follow up on what their children are signing up online, and yeah.
So I don't know if anybody wants to pick up on what you said, but Paul has said, looking forward to the conversation. So thanks, ladies, for starting that. And Kevin said, good to see you having the discussion, Karen. So yes, I do think it's important to hear the views of you as young people. If we think about that question and what you've all spoken about, in terms of the discussion, what's the one thing that you think that you've heard within the discussion now that you think people should really hone on? Or do you think it's saying, no, look at things from a broad point of view? What are your views around that in terms of the responses you've just got? If anybody'd like to go, if you'd want to pop your hand up, then I know who to chat to. Danielle?
I think that we as students are being informed of the internet safety. Our comprehensions, our English comprehensions, all of these things are based on social issues, on everything that we do experience. But I think because there's this overload of information, and from the get-go, we don't take it seriously. We're not consuming it, we're neglecting it. And I think that is where our mistake is, because we don't know what the consequences truly is. I think when we start to approach what is the consequences of our actions and how to conduct ourselves appropriately on these platforms in order to avoid these consequences, then we can really go forward.
That is such a great answer. Imran?
No, I just wanted to also say about what Danielle was saying, the digital footprint, a lot of people aren't aware about that. And it's really, really important. A lot of people can see what happens online. It's a big audience that can see it. And not a lot of kids, especially young kids or teenagers, are aware of that. So they don't understand that their actions do actually have consequences long term, like Danielle was saying.
Oh, good. Muriel, you were saying or wanted to say?
I also wanted to add on that I think with the newer generations coming up from grade 7s going up, I think there's this concept of being cool online, and they don't really understand the digital footprint concept, just as Imra said. So I think the narrative on that needs to be changed, because with what you post online has serious negative impacts on you as you grow up and look for a job. So yeah, I think it's important that they become aware of what they post online, and they should just act with integrity and kindness.
Daniela, yes, sorry, Daniela.
I think that with that being said, I think that people's reputations are being tarnished because they don't know that there is this permanent trace to what they are posting, and that it isn't as easily removable or erasable as we might assume.
That's true. There's an interesting comment here. Kevin saying, I wonder what have the girls' parents done to assist them with internet safety on their personal phones or devices? Any software, or is it more around responsible behavior? So I know you're all senior high school, but perhaps your parents did it when you were younger. Perhaps they do something differently to younger children, or you've heard of other things. I'd love your ideas around that. Daniela?
I think there are settings. There are settings that, such as with Netflix and DSTV, all of these viewing platforms, where where adults or parental figures can set settings on what their children are consuming, what is the level, the age restrictions that are being set as well. I think having the appropriate conversations with your child as well in terms of what is appropriate, what is firstly appropriate to be discussing, what is the correct manner of expressing your opinion, and also being able to deal with confrontation in a certain manner, because cyberbullying is a massive thing that is occurring, and it's ruining people's reputations, because kids are today's society, we don't know how to approach our problems face to face, and this is what the internet has given us, this amazing platform, but there's two sides to the coin. Yeah.
That's true. That's true. If I just think of myself, and perhaps you want to comment on that, but with my own children, I didn't put blocks on televisions and things. We had discussions around what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, and why we should be going into things or why we shouldn't be going into things. And in fact, at school, I did a similar thing when we did a thing at a school I was teaching at called a fanzine, which was grade 10 students, and they could choose any topic they wanted to, any topic. So some did body piercing, some did tattoos. It was a co-ed school. And the children, if the internet wasn't closed, could hop into anything. And so having the discussion around what's appropriate for school and how do we engage with that just becomes so much more important. I think sometimes we put barriers up, and then that actually stops you thinking about why you're not going in and trying to break the barrier rather than having the discussion. Imra, you wanted to say something?
I just also wanted to say, like, the discussions are, like, really, really important, like, to be able to communicate with the younger people, like, especially the parent figures, rather than just relying on the restrictions to, you know, stop them from viewing certain content. Because, I mean, like, there's often, like, ways around those restrictions, and they, like, tend to find those ways, even though it's, like, really important as well for kids to have those restrictions and to know that this is, like, not good, like certain things. But I think also discussing it is really, really important, like with your kids, like you said, ma'am. So
Daniela, you had your hand up. Did you want to share?
Ma'am, adding to what you said, I think it builds trust between the parental figure and the student, so that when something bad is happening to them on the internet, they have someone they can trust and go to with this problem as well, in terms of cyberbullying, etc., etc.
Meryl, you're nodding. Did you want to add?
I just wanted to say that parents do have the ability to create this foundation of responsible behavior for their children. So I think it's important that these discussions are made in the household, because, well, children or young people reflect what they learn in the household outside, if that makes sense. So when they're behaving irresponsibly, it could be a reflection of what happens in the household. So that behavior carries on into their social lives or their school lives, stuff like that. So I think it's important that parents take time to build that foundation and create structure for them.
Oh, ladies, your comments are just so beautiful. Thank you for sharing and just being so honest. I want to go on to the next question. So what is your tip for young people to be aware of when on the internet? So you've spoken about the dangers and that there's good and bad. Who'd like to begin? Okay, Daniela. Okay, can we let Meryl go? Daniela, yeah?
Okay, so one tip I think is, as Danielle said before, there are many people fabricating their image online. So I think young people shouldn't be pressured into giving out personal information such as their bank details or their personal or home addresses to people who seem as if they are there trying to help them.
Yeah, that's a great one. And before I let somebody else comment, I just want to say we had a chat this evening before the webinar, and so we've only used first names for the young ladies. So just setting an example about what do you put down in terms of if you're on a public platform, being aware of what you're sharing. And Daniela, before you carry on, Emma's just saying it's so wonderful to see young adults sharing their insights into the internet. So yes, thanks for sharing, Emma. But yes, it is great just listening to their views. Danielle, would you like to continue?
Yes, ma'am. So using a VPN is also a great safety approach for any individual using the internet. So
I'm going to stop you. So you need to, as an IT student, you need to explain to people what a VPN is.
Yes. So a VPN is a virtual private network. So what it does is there are loads of different networks all around the world, and what a VPN does is it connects your IP address, your device, to a network that is not in your country, not in your continent. So you can connect it to Japan, to America, all around. So what is safe and great about this option is that no one can track you. So no hackers can track you at all. So that is a great safety approach. Second thing is it blocks viruses. So no malware, nothing such as that can go onto your device. It is super safe, and it protects your personal data. So that creates that privacy element as well that we are seeking on the internet. It hides your IP address. So your IP address, this is an internet protocol that is used for each user that accesses the internet. So this uniquely identifies you. So this is also a massive safety risk. So what it does is it hides it, which is great. And the last thing is that it also allows you to connect to local networks, which is great because with other Wi-Fi networks, it is unsafe to connect to them because it's easily hackable. It's easy to access your data on these unsecure networks. So the VPN is a great tool to promote internet safety.
Great, thank you for that. Imran, I know you haven't said your tip yet, but Meryl had her hand up first and then yours. We'll come to that. Let's carry on the thread with Daniela, and then we'll go to your tip, Imran, if that's okay. So Meryl, if you want to link with that.
Yes, just adding to what Danielle said about the malware, I think it's also important for young people to have an antivirus program on their computers, which takes away all malware off their computer. And if, for example, their computer has been attacked by a virus or a Trojan, I think it's important that the first thing they do is quickly get an antivirus program, because these malwares have the potential to damage the computer really severely and steal information for other benefits.
Yeah, that's very true. Imran, do you want to share with us? I'm just going to pop these comments on and you can just read as she's speaking. Yep.
Okay.
So
I'm actually with Danielle and Muriel, what you guys were saying, I'm actually not too familiar with the softwares and stuff. So like my tip was just like be careful about what you post online, like think about it, because teens often, just go off of instinct and their gut. So I mean, like they need to think of the potential consequences because of their footprint, like I said before, and how it could like harm their reputation and put them in danger sometimes. So, I mean, like, it's difficult to remove or erase those kind of things. So they just need to, like, think in the future, even though it's not, like, it's difficult for them, like, even, especially us even, because, I mean, we don't think that far ahead. But, like, it is a reality, and we need to just, like, think about that. So, yeah.
Yep, that's very true, because lots of people don't know the tech, but they just need to think about, what am I posting? Danielle, you had your hand up.
Yes, just to Mr. Steenkamp's comment, I think he is completely correct on how we have a massive impact as younger students. I think that we have been hearing all of these safety guides from elders, from parental figures, from teachers, but it isn't sinking in until someone else on your level who is experiencing the same experiences as you on the internet, the same pressure, the same desire to use these internet sources. So I think it is definitely coming from us. It's massive. It's huge.
Yeah, I do agree that we don't. I mean, and Paul saying, Imran, it's a good point as well. I agree. You don't have to know about the internet. I remember seeing a poster years ago from Common Sense, which I just think is so good, and it's about a photograph. And the first picture is this good enough? Yes or no? And then it goes on to, is the person happy for you to share? And then if you've shared it, are there consequences for the person that the photo is about? And so if we just think about that with everything we do with the internet, it just makes so much sense. How are we being kind to both ourselves and other people? How are we protecting ourselves? And if you think about it, when you were little, and you would want to cross the road, or you would go and play in a playground, you would have rules. Don't talk to strangers, look before you walk, be careful of what you do. And we just need to use that same kind of logic and say, well, think of the internet as this amazing playground, and they're good and they're bad things. Just think about what we can do in terms of how we can be safe. What are the kinds of things that we can do to be safe? So those tips that you have all given are really, really useful in terms of how do we really protect each other. Is there anything you want to pick up on what others have said? Imra, yes.
No, I just want to add on to that. Like, there's so many situations we've seen where, like, things from long time ago, like, come up today and then, like, ruin someone's, like, career or reputation completely. So, like, even if, like, the teenagers don't, like, they know about this because it's, like, relevant. It's, like, famous creators that have done things, like, 10 or 15 years ago, and it, like, comes up today, and then they're like, oh, we're so sorry, like, they like do apology videos for it and stuff like that. So like they need to just be aware of that. Like, we know teenagers watch these creators, so they know about it. They just like don't think before they post, and that's like really important. So they just need to be aware.
That's very, very true. Meryl, you wanted to say something?
Yes. So one last tip that I have is, I know now in like new generations, people are more associated in group chats. So I think it's important that young people refrain from group chats participating in bashing somebody or hurting them or cyberbullying, because I didn't know this, but your presence on that group chat, even if you're not saying anything, can have serious repercussions on you, because it's almost as if you're accepting that behavior and you're allowing for it to happen instead of bringing it up to someone.
Yeah. In fact, if you go onto the South African Films and Publication Board website, it actually talks about things like that, where you can report cyberbullying. And even if you're on a WhatsApp group and there's inappropriate content, just by being a member, like you're saying, you can have a consequence if you haven't reacted and said this is not appropriate, or don't, or haven't reacted. It's a very good point, that. I think both Imran and Daniela wanted something to say, so I'm not sure who wants to go first. Okay, Imran, sorry.
No, you can, Danielle. Sorry, I don't know what I was going to say.
Okay, that's good. So another tip that I think that is just to show that the school is also participating in trying to make us aware of internet safety as well. Learning in IT, they taught us that how to get your resources correctly, such as from a valid and research point of view. If you go on your URL, it usually starts with an HTTP. Now, if it has an HTTPS, the S stands for secure. So this means that any financial, especially in the financial world, especially how it's being conducted on the internet as well, I think people need to be aware that it has to have that secure HTTPS to know that you can enter that personal data.
Yep. And if you look on Google's URLs, there's also a little lock. So if you look at the picture next to the HTTPS, or if it's a URL that doesn't have that, there'll be a little lock if it's secure. Yeah, great point. Imran, did you want to add something?
No, I think Muriel, covered basically what I wanted to say. Like, it's really important, like, this consequences, especially on the group chats. Like, it's really like you're a bystander, basically, if you're on the group chat, which is just as bad. So,
Yeah, that is true. And I think sometimes people find it easier for some reason to put the messages on the chat rather than, they would never say that to somebody face to face. So like one of you mentioned earlier, it's how do we encourage the face-to-face interaction and the engagement so that we can actually see from each other in terms of looking out for each other. Lyneth's saying great tips for keeping safe online. Yes, they really are. Thanks, Lyneth, for sharing. So if we then think about what you just said, and we look at the next question, the question is twofold. So why or how do you think young people need to be aware of being responsible online? So we've touched on it a little bit, but can you sort of think of what are the kinds of things they need to be aware of? What are the kinds of dangers? So I know before we came on the call, quite a few of you spoke about cyberbullying. So I don't know if you want to pick up more on that. Some of you spoke about inappropriate content. So I'm not sure which way you want to go, but who'd like to begin with this viewpoint? Emra.
So, like, I've been mentioning the whole time about, like, the long-term consequences, but, like, this is why young people need to be aware of being responsible, because their online actions have real-life consequences, right? So, like, the cyberbullying and spreading false information or false news or whatever, this can hurt others and damage their own reputation or damage the person that they're, like, cyberbullying, right? Anything they post online can be seen by anyone, like a large audience, employers, like anyone. They can literally see it and view it, right? Like, it leaves that permanent mark that they can't get rid of as easily as they think. So like how they can be responsible kind of is they kind of like just make sure they use like safe like websites, reliable things, like they make sure that those websites are safe and not like corrupted or like they're not trying to steal their information, because a lot of the time you get like fake things that try to like steal your information. So they just need to be like careful. They need to consider those things and their actions, of course. So, yeah.
Yeah, great points. Muriel?
Yes, just adding on to what Imra just said, with what you say online can affect others. I think as a teenager, it would be the worst case scenario to be charged for defamation of character because of what you said online. And I think it's important that people, or young people in particular, don't reply to people online when they're angry or upset, because once you say those things, you can never take them back, because it's already out there and it's already done the damage to that person. And even if you delete it, it's still there. People, especially these days, people screenshot everything and post it everywhere to expose you, stuff like that. So I think it's important to keep in mind that you shouldn't reply to text messages when you're angry or upset, because it has serious implications.
Yep. Daniela?
I think once again, just approaching a situation when you have a conflict, getting that human interaction again. I mean, internet connection is brilliant, but getting that physical, intimate connection is something else. How someone hears something, how it lands to them, you can't control how your message or what you say lands to them. So that's why I feel like it has to be an intimate setting. It has to be personal. It can't occur over the internet, because this creates identity issues. People start questioning themselves because of cyberbullying, because of how their character, how their identity is being questioned. This creates how your reputation is being viewed by others. This is your career. This is your teachers, your schoolmates, your friends. This creates your entire social circle, how this is influenced. And I think that people don't understand how their actions have consequences for other people as well. It's not just themselves. It's not every man for himself. It is, we are in this together.
So I think those are all great points in terms of thinking about care and consideration. If you now went back to school tomorrow and an incident happened, what advice would you give your peers? Emma.
So like, especially if it's a conflict in real life, like Danielle said, it's really important for them to work it out, like at school, instead of going home angry at each other and then they start fighting online. Because then, like she said, you can't like hear how they're saying it or how they're conveying the message. Like, you need to hear their tone, you need to hear, like, see their facial expressions, because that all contributes to how you feel about what someone is saying. So if like there was an incident, especially if it was an argument or conflict, like it's best to, like, I would suggest working it out like at school, seeing if they could like get it even into like a little private space where like nobody can really see them or hear them, and then like trying to work it out calmly, or even if they want to approach a teacher about it, a trusted teacher, and try and work it out like that. So
Cool.
that would.
Great. Daniela had her hand up, then I'll come to you, Meryl.
I think also not spreading rumors about someone else. I think firstly, or not speaking of the conflict with other individuals, but firstly going to that individual and talking about the conflict, talking about what upset that person, as well as not going to the internet towards that, and not defaming the person, not their reputation, because this is also, I feel your reputation is so important, and it's been repeated throughout this entire podcast, but I think it is so important because that is what people base their judgment off on you.
Great. Muriel?
I just wanted to add also with conflict, I think nowadays people feel more comfortable in involving others in their problems. So I think with that, it's better to deal with it privately or talk to a social worker at school instead of getting riled up and feeling the courage to bash this person online because, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to what we said before, respect the other people as individuals, even if you don't always agree with them, and being kind about what we say, and especially what we say online. Kevin is asking, are there any tips for anyone about safe passwords? We've heard horror stories about accounts being hacked. Are there any stories or any suggestions about what tips you would give around safe passwords? Yep, Daniela.
I think the internet has actually really, they've stepped up and really tried to persuade other individuals to have a safe password, such as having characters, not using any names like your personal name, not using pets, because pets are always the one, okay? Not using pets, not using family names, using characters, using digits, using all of these things to make your password as complicated as possible. And I know the problem is remembering the password, but actually not storing it on your device in notes, but writing it down and storing it in a safe place, because someone may access it, and that's where the horror stories end up going. So
Great point. Anybody else want to add? Meryl.
I would say that some apps provide like an authentication thing. So like if you put your password in, or it might say write your favorite, I don't know, color or something like that,
Yeah,
which authenticates you as a user. So Yeah, and I think also updating your password regularly and not sharing it with anyone helps you avoid those horror stories.
Yeah, the sharing with anyone, it does. It starts with us as individuals. Who do we tell about our passwords? No, it's my best friend, and today you're good friends, and tomorrow it's like, so no, don't do that. Anybody else? Emma, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, basically what they were saying is pretty much it, like keeping it, not like too complicated, but like at least complicated enough to like, you know, meet the requirements for a safe password, like digits, numbers, full stops, exclamation marks, all those things that make the password just that much more complicated. And then, yeah, like, Muriel was saying about the authentication, because then it's specific to you. Like no one else will really know that about you. I saw this like one authentication question the other day, and it was like, where did you go for your first holiday? So like, I mean, like it's specific to you. Like nobody else would really know that unless it's your family, you know. So I've seen that, and it's like important for
and probably easy for you to remember in terms of an authentication that way. So if we had to go back to the question in terms of, we've spoken about how would you answer why? Why do you think it's important? Some of you answered the how, so if you want to look at the other version, Daniela.
I think there's a saying that says the internet has given us access to everything, but it has also given everything access to us. And that's where it comes in privacy. I think everyone has the right to privacy, once again. And I feel to protect your own privacy, to protect your family's privacy, everyone who's socially and intimately linked to you, to protect their privacy, to protect yourself, to be able to identify fraud, to not be taken advantage of and manipulated to give away your personal information and through social engineering and things as such. So I think that's very important.
Cool. Meryl.
I think also I think we're all familiar with the term jumping on the bandwagon. So I think online these days people are comfortable with posting fake news, and I think that's really affecting the younger population because they allow these fake news outlets to change their opinions or perspectives on some things. So I think it's important to find out whether it's true or not so that they don't allow the fake news to influence their daily lives and stuff like that.
That's a great point. Imran?
I just wanted to repeat like what I've been saying the whole time, but like about the real life consequences. Like that's why they need to be aware, you know, they need to know about their consequences. So that's probably why it's important for them to be aware of being responsible so that they know about their real life consequences and the way it could damage their future and their footprint and all that we've been saying the whole time. So, yeah.
So we've had some thanks and that it's really great. And I just want to say thank you to the three of you for actually sharing your views this evening and for being so honest in terms of your viewpoints. I really don't know how to say thank you for your time. I know you're all really busy. School is crazily hectic. So I really do appreciate you being willing to share your views and to coming on to the chat. So we've had three fantastic speakers. We've had a young lady from St. Stithians, from Brescia House, and from Parklands College. And we just want to say to all of you, thank you so very much. So as a closing, I'd love for you to leave a tip or an idea for the audience around your views. What would your closing bit of information like to be? So who'd like to go? Okay, Imra.
So just like the last thing is like, I know it's a lot easier said than done, but like just little things every day, like try and improve, especially the younger audience, like the people who are still in high school, the people who are still very influenced by their peers, just like little things every day to become more aware of what they're doing and what they're being exposed to. and to just educate themselves about everything that's going on. So I mean, that's probably like the biggest advice I'd give to any young student out there.
Great, that's really, really valuable. Daniela?
I think the internet really gives us they take all the measures that they can to protect us, but I think we have to take on the responsibility to actually educate ourselves on how to protect ourselves and take on that responsibility for ourselves and not just blame the internet for not protecting us. So, yeah.
Thank you. Meryl?
Also, this is just a thing that my principal says a lot, but for all the people out there, before you post, just picture your post on a billboard down Nickel Way or any highway, and if you'd be happy with it being there, because it's similar to you posting something online. So I think my last message to all of you guys is always be aware of what you're posting online, what you're saying, because it will come back and haunt you when you're trying to find a job, just as like Imra said. So yeah, just be responsible. Don't do anything that you wouldn't want to happen to you as well. So yeah.
So thank you very much. I think you've all done really, really well. And thanks, Lynette. I do agree with you. Keep up this amazing example that the three of you are setting. And I look forward to learning about what you do once you leave school. And good luck for the rest of this year. I'm going to end the broadcast. Thanks very much. Very, very much indeed to all of you.